The Wild West was a time when life was anything but tame. This rugged land was filled with outlaws, cowboys, and a whole lot of chaos, where the only rule was survival. It was a time when cowboys and outlaws made the rules, and what was shocking then would leave us wide-eyed today. What's even more fascinating is that there are photographs out that capture the essence of this era perfectly. From public hangings to the bizarre trend of photographing the deceased, life on the frontier was anything but ordinary. With that being said, this was considered normal in the Wild West. Number 10. Saloon in Utah. Back then, saloons in Utah were more than just watering holes. They were the heartbeat of social life. There is one photo where a cowboy strolls into a saloon, but he's not just here for a drink. He's brought his horse along for the ride. The photo captures this hilarious moment, perfectly showcasing the wild and unpredictable spirit of the era. Saloons were the go-to spots for cowboys and outlaws, looking to unwind after a long day. You never knew what might happen next. Would the piano player suddenly burst into a song? Or perhaps a game of cards would escalate into an unexpected showdown. One thing is for sure, though. Amid the laughter and revelry, a darker side of the Wild West lurked in the shadows simultaneously. Number 9. Public executions. They often drew huge crowds, buzzing with excitement as vendors rushed to sell snacks and drinks to eager onlookers. Public executions in the Wild West were meant to scare away crime, but they quickly turned into gruesome shows that fascinated the masses. The harsh truth was that the legal system back then was shaky and full of mistakes. Many people faced the gallows after unfair trials, and innocent folks sometimes ended up at the noose. Adding to the horror, minorities, especially African Americans, were punished much more harshly than white people, revealing the shocking unfairness of the time. Yet, despite this brutality, public executions were chillingly accepted until they were finally banned in the late 20th century, leaving behind a grim legacy that still haunts us today. As the dark curtain on public executions falls, the spotlight shifts back to Billy, the kid who had everyone guessing whether he was left-handed or just a master of misdirection. Number 8. Did he prefer his right? For ages, historians and Wild West fans thought Billy the Kid, the infamous outlaw known for murdering a whopping 21 people, was a lefty. Why? One famous tintype photo shows the outlaw with a gun belt on his left side and a Winchester Model 1873 rifle nearby, making it look like he's ready to pull the trigger with his left hand. Seems like a solid assumption, right? However, there's proof out there that suggests that the reality could be a lot different. Here's the thing. Those tintype photos were made by flipping the image, like taking a mirror selfie. So guess what? That gun belt was most likely on his right side, not his left, which means the rifle was probably set up for him to pull the trigger with his right hand. Now, as Billy was busy crafting his legend, it's another fierce figure was blazing her own trail through the Wild West. Number 7. Calamity Jane. Calamity Jane wasn't just a sharpshooter and skilled horse rider during the Dakota Gold Rush. She lived life on her own terms in a world that often pushed women aside. This amazing 1882 photograph captures her fierce spirit and fearless heart perfectly. She stood strong with the men, earning their respect with her impressive skills and smashing through the limits of her time. Calamity took on jobs that were usually for men, working as a scout for the U.S. Army, caring for the sick, and dazzling crowds in saloons. While many were expected to stay at home, Calamity Jane forged her own path, jumping into excitement and rewriting the rules of the Wild West. Calamity Jane fought for her place in a man's world. Another infamous figure was busy crafting a legend of his own, one that would lead him down a far more perilous path. Number 6. The double-buried Jesse James. Jesse James is probably one of the few people who didn't find peace even after death. After a wild life of robbing banks and stirring up trouble across the West, Jesse tried to settle down at his homestead, but in Kearney, Missouri. However, in 1882, after a short attempt to lay low, a former rival caught up with him and ended his life. To keep people from vandalizing his grave, his family buried him in the front yard. But guess what? That plan backfired spectacularly. Word spread like wildfire about his burial spot, drawing in curious onlookers and grave robbers. Instead of staying hidden, that makeshift grave turned into a hotspot for all kinds of disturbances and digging attempts. However, the wild twists don't stop there. Fast forward to 1948, when a man named J. Frank Dalton strutted onto the scene, claiming to be the real Jesse. What's more mind-boggling is that he even convinced a court to let him take on the infamous outlaw's name. At a whopping 101 years old, Dalton spun a tale so outrageous that when he passed away, Granbury, Texas turned his grave into a must-see tourist attraction. However, the drama didn't end there. Years later, scientists dug up Jesse's body from from Kearney, ran tests and confirmed it was truly him. Dalton's wild claims went up in smoke. Still, the myth of Granbury as Jesse's burial spot lived on. Number 5. Exploitation of Chinese railroad workers. What's devastating about these men is that they worked long hours for just $1 a day, less than half of what their white co-workers earned. This pay gap highlighted the unfair racism they faced in the workforce. While white workers enjoyed better wages, living conditions, and supplies, the Chinese laborers struggled against the odds. They had to set up their own camps in harsh environments, searching for food and basic needs, all while dealing with discrimination from their bosses and fellow workers. Many had come to America hoping for a better life, but instead found themselves treated poorly and unfairly. They were often called coolies, a derogatory term that reflected the prejudice they encountered. Yet, they were crucial in building the railroads that connected the West to the rest of the now, just as railroad workers labored in the shadows, though a different scene unfolded in South Dakota. Number 4. The real Deadwood. In South Dakota, a vibrant photograph captures the lively streets of Deadwood in its Wild West heyday. You see, Deadwood was notorious for its wild reputation and had quickly become a magnet for outlaws, gamblers, and daring adventurers. This snapshot, however, which was taken during the town's early days, is alive with people today, and wagons bustling through the dusty roads. You can almost hear the clip-clop of hooves and the chatter of townsfolk filling the air. This bustling town embodied the true spirit of the Wild West, where opportunity and danger walked hand in hand. While later movies and TV shows would glamorize its stories, this picture reveals Deadwood in its raw, unfiltered form. Number 3. The famous Dr. Sears. On another front of progress, let's shine a spotlight on an incredible figure from the Wild West, Dr. Sears. This orthopedic surgeon was a trailblazer in treating scoliosis, during a time when a broken bone could bring your entire life to a grinding halt. In a striking photograph taken in his office, Dr. Sears is hard at work, examining a patient's spine with a unique device he crafted himself. This metal brace was a game-changer. Designed to correct spinal curves, it brought relief to those suffering from scoliosis. His groundbreaking work marked a significant leap forward in orthopedic medicine, proving that even in the rugged Wild West, real progress was taking place. The Wild West wasn't just about medical breakthroughs, though. It had its own quirky traditions, too. Yet, amid these medical advancements, a different kind of tradition was quietly shaping lives and relationships. Number 2. Women kneeling for their husbands. In the early 1900s, women knelt before their husbands on New Year's Day, begging for forgiveness for their past mistakes. In this picture of a dusty cabin, with a warm fire crackling, a wife kneels at her husband's feet, hoping for a fresh start in the new year. This blend of humility and tradition reveals the strong gender roles of the time, even in the wild lands of the West. In stark contrast to this, the spirit of the Wild West also birthed remarkable individuals who defied expectations and carved their own paths. Number 1. Nat Love. On the other hand, we have Nat Love, a Wild West icon who offers an electrifying perspective that's as bold as the frontier itself. Born into slavery, Nat's life is a powerful tale of courage and determination. By the early 1900s, he had become a celebrated cowboy, known far and wide across the West. Nat was a master at everything: roping cattle, riding tough horses, and shooting with pinpoint accuracy. After driving a massive herd of cattle to the railhead in Deadwood, Dakota Territory, our cowboy hero couldn't resist the adrenaline rush of the Wild West. He stormed into a 4th of July rodeo in 1876, lured by the irresistible $200 prize money. With everything on the line, it was the ultimate showdown, and the excitement was electric. He swore up and down that he crushed it, winning every contest from roping and tying to bronco riding. To top it off, he said that his performance earned him the nickname Deadwood Dick, which was a nod to the famous dime novel character by Edward Lytton Wheeler. Here's the thing, though. The local Deadwood newspapers, which eagerly reported every detail of the town's 4th of July festivities, didn't mention a rodeo at all. Cases like these just go to show how selective people were about the type of news they wanted the public to know. It seemed that minorities at the time just didn't get the recognition they deserved. Years later, it became clear that Nat Love wasn't just a cowboy. He symbolized the broader struggle of African Americans in those trying times. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.